Welcome to the Bruins Benders Podcast, Season 4, Episode 16 with Maddie and Smitty, brought to you on the Inside the Rink Podcast Network at InsideTheRink.com. In this episode, we will discuss Joe Sacco calling the Bruins' loss to the Islanders gutsy, fire Don Sweeney chants all over TD Garden after during a loss to the Edmonton Oilers, and are the Bruins' struggles more about the roster or the players just underperforming? And follow us on the Inside the Rink YouTube channel here. Subscribe and follow us also on social media at Bruins Benders. And use this QR code on your screen right here to purchase event tickets through Ticketmaster. Get your Bruins games right here. There may be some tickets available. So follow each of us on X at Bruins, at Bender Smitty, and at Mr. Matty Barry. And the Bruins with another, they've lost 5 in a row, and in the gauntlet of teams that they are in the midst of right now include Tampa Bay Lightning and, lo and behold, the Florida Panthers coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, it's certainly a tough stretch. They've lost 7 of 8, I believe, since the Christmas break, and 5 in a row. Things aren't going well. The general manager has now come under fire. Look, Boston fans right now are not happy with any of their teams, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
And, the Fire Mayo chants raining down at Gillette Stadium towards the end of the Patriots season, and now you get the Fire Sweeney chants at the Garden. The fans here expect more from their professional sports teams, and right now they're not getting it at all from anyone. So we need to see something from the Bruins here in this little southern Florida swing, and a mom's trip. So the moms will be down there watching these guys try to right the ship somehow, score a goal maybe. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of energy the Bruins bring, especially playing in front of their mothers.
Sure, absolutely. And before we get to the chirps, we're going to talk about the ass kicking that's coming up on Saturday afternoon at Florida with Christy DeLisi. Christy is a writer for InsideTheRink.com. She rejoins us as she did previously in the previous Panthers matchup. Christy, always good to have you with us on the podcast.
Happy to be back.
Yeah. All right, so the Panthers coming up on the schedule. Now, the Panthers have kind of been up and down as I'm watching from afar here. It's kind of a head-scratching season for them a little bit. They're still getting great production from their really great, really good players. But all in all, they've been kind of on a roller coaster ride. And why do you think that is?
I think part of that is because in the last 2 years, nobody has played more hockey than Florida has. They've had 2 deep Stanley Cup runs. They've had really long seasons, short off seasons. Actually, they're in a very similar position to where they were at this point last year. So I'm personally not concerned about it. I think they're like 4 or 6 points down from where they were at this point last year, but they're not as healthy right this second as they were coming into the new year last season. So I think they'll be okay once everybody's healthy. There's not illness going around the locker room like there was last month, and guys just being injured.
Do you think they're pacing themselves because of the amount of games that they played, that they're kind of, not necessarily taking it easy, but, they're not going, balls to the wall like they do come playoff time? Do you think it's the pacing?
Probably, yeah. I mean, they were playing the Avalanche, Monday night? No, what day is it? Wednesday? Yeah, Monday night. Down 2 of their best defensemen. Aaron Ekblad was out injured. Nico Mikkola has been out since the second Tampa Bay game. So that's been like a couple of weeks without him. And that was still like a really tight game for most of it. It was 1-1 for most of it, and they gave up a second one and then an empty netter. But it was still a tight game with a contending team. So
now, when the Bruins and Panthers, the Bruins have had a really hard time, obviously, with the Panthers and so forth. But what do you think is the recipe that the Bruins could look to finally beat them? Like, what is something that really bothers the Panthers and causes them trouble against certain teams?
I would say a big weak point of Florida right now, and it's been an ongoing issue, is them turning pucks over. And if you jump on them in the neutral zone and make a quick transition, that's how teams have been able to beat them so far this year.
Okay, so the Bruins won't be able to beat them, is what you're saying.
That's been the biggest issue that they've had for sure.
Okay.
And other teams that have beaten them is just Florida not playing with an emotional intensity to their game. And Paul Maurice noted that as an issue that they'd be dealing with all year before the season even started. So, but it's Boston, so likely they will have some type of emotional intensity to their game.
Yeah, the intensity will be there. The Bruins' intensity may or may not be there because they decide when they want to show up, and they don't all the time. The Bruins probably turn pucks over more than anyone in the entire league, so I don't know if causing Florida turnovers is really going to be a help to the Bruins. And transition through the neutral zone, the Bruins aren't exactly the fastest team either. So I think they'll continue to struggle against Florida. And
then you got to outwork them. That's the only other option.
That's not really their forte either. They're kind of a glide around bunch. So, I don't see it going well for the Bruins. I think Florida will win the game, and maybe it will be a better game than I think, just because the Bruins will have to raise their emotional intensity because they don't want to look like assholes in front of their moms. Sorry, John, but
and they hate each other.
Other than that, I really don't see a path to the Bruins winning this game.
Now, how do you think the Panthers' goaltending has been? I mean, is this Bobrovsky obviously had a really great run in the postseason? Kind of, 2 years ago, Alex Lyon was playing over him, and then he took the job, and then he's been, had sort of a resurgence in his career. Is goaltending, still strong enough for them?
I think it is. Both goaltenders, I think, had a little bit rough start to the season, but Bob in his last 10 games has been, I think, over like .915 in a save percentage, and he's at a 2.0 goals allowed against in his last like 9 or 10 games. So I'm not worried about the goaltending. Bob also, I think, probably on the family side, he did just welcome a new little baby girl. So probably a little bit of outside distractions at the start of the season. And Spencer Knight has been a little bit hot and cold for them. But I think when the team plays together in front of him the way the team can and should, he's been really good. He shut out Tampa in their first meeting this year. So
yeah, I think, the one of the things about the Bruins this season, which has kind of been a positive, but probably makes it even worse, is that they've been relatively healthy. I mean, they've been pretty much, the only man down has been Hampus Lindholm, who's out and still out for a bit. But other than that, the Bruins have been remarkably healthy. They haven't missed really anybody, and that really doesn't bode well because it just shows some deficiencies in their roster. And I think Saturday coming up against the Panthers, you mentioned how the hatred, and you mentioned that the Bruins have sort of had the Panthers in their head 100%. Even Jim Montgomery before he left was talking about how the Panthers had them in their head and they really had a thing over them. So I wonder, I'm really interested to see Saturday. The Bruins aren't playing well at all. They lost 5 in a row. Played Tampa Thursday night. But I'm really interested to see, how the Bruins respond to the Panthers, and if possibly it gives them a jump start if they can get a win in Florida. But what is, I guess, your prediction? How do you think this game goes?
I think it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to go the way that the first 2 games in the playoffs went, where it was a blowout win for one team, where it's 5-1 Boston, or the 2 6-2 games for Florida, or it's going to go the complete opposite and how the last 3 or 4 games went, where it's 1-goal games and they're going to be mean and nasty and hard to win. I don't think there's a whole lot of middle ground of it'll just be a 2-goal win, or 2 or 3 goals is the difference. I think it'll be either blowout or really, really close.
Going forward, you still think Florida Panthers are going to make another run to this thing, or with the Rangers or my team, and they have completely face planted.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Completely face planted, and that's good for Florida because I thought the Rangers at the beginning of the year were the real competition for them. Could be the Capitals now. I'm not sure who it is, but right now, with it being wide open in the East, I think Florida still has a chance to right the ship and maybe make another run.
Yeah, I know Florida fans have been a little bit concerned over December. They got shut out 4 times in December, but those are the only 4 shutouts they've had on the year. And at that point last year, they had also been shut out 4 times, but it was over the course of a couple of months, so it didn't feel as immediately distressing. So that's why I'm not concerned about it. In terms of competition, I think Capitals would definitely be a strong contender from what I've seen. I do think Florida can go back, though. I think they can. If they make any moves at the trade deadline, I would probably expect them to go after a defenseman, would be my immediate gut reaction.
Yeah, I feel like Washington probably is the biggest challenger to them. They don't really seem to have any holes. I think they're top 5 in goals for and goals against. I think their power play is top 10. Their penalty kills top 5. Like their shooting percentages first. Like they don't seem to have any holes. And as long as they stay healthy, Carberry's got them playing well almost every night. Playing hard almost every night. So I feel like of the teams in the East, the Capitals probably will be there in the end because they just seem to, they don't really have any holes that, other teams can kind of pick on.
Yeah. That'll be a really interesting matchup if we get that.
For sure. I mean, usually if you check all those boxes, you make a run. In the playoffs.
I'd be curious to see if the Caps have any answer for how to deal with like Barkov and Reinhart and just the defensive structure of Florida's top guys. That's what they were so good at in the playoffs last year. They shut down Kucherov, they shut down Pasternak, they shut down Zibanejad and all of the top guys in New York, and they kept McDavid and Draisaitl scoreless for 3-4 games out of the finals. So if they can do that for other teams, then they can win a lot.
And I think the jury's still out there because after Ovechkin, they really don't have household names offensively, the Caps. So it'll be interesting to see who steps up in the postseason if they get to that point. So that's an excellent point. Yeah.
Isn't the Capitals, aren't they getting that prospect Ryan Leonard, I think is his name?
Yeah.
It's coming off of the
World Juniors.
Yeah, the World Juniors.
Yeah, so when BC's season ends, whenever that is, I would expect Leonard to turn pro and enter. And they also have, I believe, Cole Hudson, the defenseman, I think is Capitals also.
Yeah. Led the World Juniors tournament in points. So that could
add a boost from the back end. They also could at the trade deadline look for some offense. So it'll be interesting to see what the Capitals do at the deadline.
Can't wait for the guys that the Bruins had the World Juniors when they come out. They didn't have any.
That's right.
If it makes you feel better, Florida only had one guy playing for
one guy.
So.
Okay, that makes you feel a little better, I guess.
Not really. Don't have a ton of guys there.
Not really, though. Not really. Hey, and the Bruins have been shut out 6 times, so don't feel so bad.
Yeah,
that's not bad. Christy, always good to have you on, and we look forward to Saturday's matchup on ABC, 1:00 start, Florida, Boston. Always good to have you on, and we'll have chat again soon. Hopefully, maybe in the playoffs. Who knows? But thanks.
Yeah. Well, there's one more game I think in March. So if you want to,
there is. Let's do it in March.
Okay, we'll plan for March then.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Christy.
Thanks a lot, Christy.
All right. All right. 7 Chirps is sponsored by Lops Brewing and Lobster Brewing and Tasting Room in downtown Woonsocket, Rhode Island, specializing in small batch ales and lagers. Open 7 days a week. Use the coupon code SPORTS to get 10% off your online order. Go to lopsbrewing.com. Follow them at Lops Brewing for new beers and events. Chirp 1, Joe Sacco called the Bruins gaining a point against the Islanders in a 5-4 OT loss at home. Gutsy, what the fuck? Sorry, John. Are we doing here?
I just don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand how a team that expects to make the playoffs can come out and say something like that, especially when you score first and have a lead for the first time in I don't know how long. And then you give up 2 quick goals and go down, and sure, you battle back and make it 4-4 and dominate the play in overtime, but then they come down and score and you lose. That's not gutsy. That's not anything. You should have won. You should have got 2 points from them. You got 1. That's not what you're looking for, especially at this time when you have guys, teams right behind you with games in hand that are crawling up your ass for the final playoff spot in the division. So I just don't know where Sacco's coming from there. I think it's too much like a country club atmosphere where it's like everything's fine, everything's okay, everything's going to be great, everyone's doing well, like it's all positive. Look, somebody has to take some accountability over there and own the fact that the team is underperforming, and he needs to tell them that. Stop sugarcoating shit. That doesn't help anyone. Like tying the Islanders is not gutsy. It is a failure, is what it is.
Sure. When the Bruins have lost the players they've lost in the last couple of years, they really lost a lot of their resiliency. They used to be a pretty resilient team. They'd come back in games. They'd win games you didn't think they would win. They wouldn't get into these long losing streaks or really these big dips. They would find a way to get a win and kind of get back on track. And this group doesn't. It doesn't seem to do that. They've come back one time in the third. When it's over, it's over. And not only that, it turns from 3-1 to 5-1, 4-2 to 6-2. So there's a lot of that with this team, and I just feel like emotionally, there's some of the players in this group that just can't handle that kind of thing. They still need that soft coach, and the soft coach doesn't motivate them enough. So the only thing I can think of is to change the core and get some new guys in here and change the culture and just revamp the thing, whether that's a rebuild or a reload or whatever the hell it is. They've got to change some of the people in there, in that room, and start to change that culture back to what it was. And right now they've really lost that. And this thing here is, with Sacco, the right response is, we battled back, but we lost an opportunity for 2 points that we really needed to have.
Yeah.
That's it. So you can say, you can acknowledge the battle back, but you can say at the end of the day, we needed 2 points and we didn't get it.
I think you're right. I think you should be the Bruins public relations
I think so.
director.
I think so.
I think you should give
James of the Bruins. Yeah.
I think you should be a public relations consultant for Joe Sacco.
I might be. It'll be a little bit of a edgier, harsher tone, but I'll get it done at the end. At the end of the day. Hey, I'll be the translator like Garrett Morris on the old Saturday Night Live. The hearing impaired. Yeah, I'll be the translator. He'll say it, and then I'll say it the real way.
That works.
Get your head out of your ass. We didn't have our heads were in our ass for the first two periods. Unfortunately.
Yeah. We didn't play as well as we liked. Our heads were up our asses. See,
right. I mean, that's it. Chirp 2, it feels like the Bruins players realize these next 6 or 7 games may make or break their season. Can the Bruins do enough during this stretch to stay in the race?
Nope.
Ooh, I just don't see it.
I don't
now,
see
look,
it.
Tampa Bay is not playing well. So you can, when you're playing a little better, you can win both of these Tampa games. But the problem is that you aren't playing well either. And, I just don't see it. Now, the only saving grace is that Tampa Bay is not playing well. They just beat Carolina to break a 4-game losing streak. But all in all, they haven't been playing great. So
they haven't. They're still more talented than you and still better than you, though.
Yeah. And so is Florida and Ottawa after that. So
the fact that they're not playing great doesn't make me feel all that good because you're not playing great. You're probably playing. Your not great is probably worse than they're not great. So both teams are playing bad, but they're still better than you. So, it doesn't make me feel good at all. That you have Tampa a couple times. Plus, it's a divisional game. Like teams get up for divisional games. Will the Bruins? I know Tampa will probably be ready. I'm not sure the Bruins will, because they take games off. They take periods off. They start slowly. They've led for 11 minutes since Christmas or whatever it is. Like, or during the 5-game losing streak. It's ridiculous. So, I can't feel good about it. And now they're going through a stretch where they have mostly playoff teams, or if they're not playoff teams, they're right on the edge of the playoffs. They're right behind you. They're chasing you. They have games in hand on you. So all these games, all these next 6, 7, 8, 10 games are important. Yeah. I mean,
here it is there at Tampa, at Florida, home against Tampa, at Ottawa, and they play the Sharks at home, but then at the Devils, Ottawa at home, second night of a back-to-back. Avalanche at home. And then they're at Buffalo, who's playing better. And is that Winnipeg?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Winnipeg at home. Oh, my goodness. I mean, there's January right there. So, wow, other than the Sharks and maybe the Sabres, everybody else is you're not gonna be favored in all the rest of the games.
Yeah, I mean, you look, that's really tough. That's a really tough stretch. So at the end of January, if they're still hanging around like third or fourth and only a couple points out, you have to think that's a win, in my mind. Like if somehow they can get through this thing and have won, they're 4-4-2 or some shit like that. Like that's a godsend. You should take that and run to the lottery place and place your bets, because they'll be ridiculously lucky to end up 500 through this stretch.
Yes, that's survival.
Yeah,
absolutely survive it. All right, chip 3 is, should Charlie McAvoy be on the Four Nations roster? He was announced early. They thought it was a safe bet. Maybe it was not.
He shouldn't be on the roster.
No, he shouldn't be. And I'll tell you what, it would behoove the Bruins if he wasn't. He needs just to get away from it.
He needs a mental break. He does. He needs a mental break. It should be John Carlson from the Capitals. His McAvoy stats: 43 games, 5 goals, 14 assists, 19 points, +3. It's amazing that he's a +3. He's one of a few defensemen on the team that are still plus. Him, Zadorov, I think, might be the only ones. Maybe there's a couple other guys hanging around even, but he hasn't performed, just like everyone else on the roster. He's had a bad year, just like everyone else has had a bad year. Every single person on that roster is down.
Yeah, everybody.
I mean, other than Justin Brazeau, can you think of one single guy who's having a better year than they had a year ago?
I can't think of one guy because, Marchand, Pastrnak, of course, Lindholm, no. Sacco, no. Coyle, Frederic, all bad. Georgii is probably about on pace now.
I think he's down.
He might be the closest. He's still down still. Other than that, no. I mean,
everybody but Brazeau has been down. So we're not just
have one player on the Boston Bruins who is doing better than last year, but he was not a Bruin last year.
Oh, Kastelik.
Mark Kastelik. He has 2 more points than he did last year in Ottawa.
Great. So undrafted free agent off the street and a 4th line guy that you should have never gotten in the trade because you should have never traded Allmark to a division rival.
Yeah.
So perfect. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, so 2 guys out of 21 are having better years than they had last year. That's really a recipe for success.
That's unbelievable. It really is.
I'm not shitting on just McAvoy is my point. Like he's been bad, but so is everyone else.
To me, what that means is that somewhere along the line of style of play and how they play and what the message is getting across or what have you, it's just disjointed. If all those guys are below what they should be or were last year, that's just alarming, and it just tells me that they're unsure of how to play and what they're doing, and it's just too disjointed. Like some think they should play this way, some think they should play that way, some aren't comfortable playing this way, so they fall back to bad habits. I mean, it just seems like the roster that was put together, and Sweeney probably thought, okay, we want to be bigger and heavier and play this way. And Montgomery said, no, this is how I like to coach. This is what we do. And then the players didn't fit that mold. And now they're just still trying to recover from that. And to me, it's about how they play together to have all those people, 19 people, not play up to par.
Yeah. I mean, they're not this bad. They're not this bad, but there's also still some holes in the roster. So let's not pretend there isn't. The only reason Charlie McAvoy is in the Four Nations is because the thing is in Boston. They're trying to sell tickets. That's the only reason he was announced early. That's the only reason Marchand was announced early. It's because the thing is taking place in Boston or Montreal or whatever, and they're trying to sell tickets. That's the only reason. I mean, McAvoy does not deserve to be on the team. He doesn't.
No question about it. Chirp number 4, fire Sweeney chance breakout in the 4-0 home loss to the Oilers, and here they are. Wow, that's like most of the barn.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty loud.
That's loud. And when that happened to Gerard Mayo, he was gone the next day. So this is, and we've talked about this in the postgame briefly. This is something that I think makes management take notice. I mean, I don't think they have as much urgency to fire him, but if the fans start this type of revolt, that's one little chink in the armor. That's a little bit of, the management has to take a look at that, I think. So is the pressure on Sweeney now to do something drastic by the trade deadline, which is out of character?
Yeah, the pressure is absolutely on him. Will he do something? That's not in his nature. It really isn't. It's not in his nature. I would love for him to do something because I don't want to waste some of these assets that they have that aren't going to be there for their future. Why would you keep guys and let them walk for nothing when you may be able to flip them for an asset that will help you in the retool, rebuild, reload, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Sorry, John. But, I just don't think he's the type of guy who's going to pull off a bold move and shake up the core in season. That's just never been him. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope he does. I hope that Trent Frederic is traded. I hope that, maybe they're involved in the Elias Pettersson, JT Miller sweepstakes and are looking to grab one of those guys. It sounds like maybe Vancouver is leaning towards trading Pettersson, and he would be the guy that I would want if I'm the Bruins. He's 26 years old. He's a center. He has some, issues, but he wouldn't be available if he didn't. So, he's one I'd be willing to take a chance on. He's had over 100 points in a season. That is an elite talent. The Bruins need more elite talents. So I would be willing to try to put a package together for a guy like that. But will Sweeney do something like that? I still think no.
I don't think so either. It's just not in his nature, and I think he'll do a couple of minor moves like he typically does, and just hope that the roster comes back together. I think he's really surprised. I mean, they talked about Neely and Sweeney about how this is more of a playoff-ready roster, and it's obviously worse. And I think they're really surprised. I think, at least Sweeney is. He has to be. Because I think he still thought this was a playoff roster that he just had to make an ad later on to. And it just hasn't played out that way. And I think he's probably stunned at this. So I think
you're right. I think he is.
And then moving on from Jim Montgomery and all of it, like he's really treading water. He's really trying to take, he's in the boat with a Dixie cup, and he's trying to friggin', just hold on for dear life right now. And it's not going well. And it just doesn't seem to be like it's going to come back. It's just, I would be really surprised if the team really dug themselves out of this whole full steam. Because it just seems like it's much more. And Charlie Coyle said this recently on or just after the game. I think it was the other day. It was Bridget Proul who said that, had Charlie McAvoy talking after the game. And he said he was asked about what's the identity of the team. And he was frustrated. He says, it's something we have to work on clearly. He said, Charlie Coyle. Yeah. He says, scoring is not our problem right now. It's so much more than that, which leads me to believe, like, if he thinks that, this isn't getting changed overnight.
No, I mean, it is so much more than that. It's really tough to point to an area and you're like, wow, they're good in that area. Mm-hmm. So it is more than just scoring. It's scoring, it's defense, it's effort, it's physicality, it's goaltending, it's specialty teams. Mm-hmm. It's everything.
Sure.
There's not one thing they do well. Never mind, trying to dig themselves out of, a hole with, there's only like a few minor tweaks we need to make, a few little things we need to work on. No. It's everything. It's everything they need to work on. And that's not something that can be solved overnight. That's going to take time. Swayman hasn't been right all year. Korpisalo's been up and down all year. The scoring has been up and down. Everybody's had bad years. The defense has been, giving pucks away left and right. They're a minus goal differential for the first time in forever. Right. Like, there's lots and lots and lots of problems with this team.
Right. Charlie McAvoy, Chirp 5. Charlie McAvoy has not spoken to media after any of the 5 straight losses. As an assistant captain, anything to gather from that?
Yeah, I think he's super frustrated. And I can't blame him for being super frustrated. I would be super frustrated too. He smashed his stick over the net on one of the recent goals against. Mm-hmm. But look, as a captain, you need to speak. You are a leader on the team. Mm-hmm. The rest of the team takes some of their cues from you. Mm-hmm. You can't not talk. If you're a leader, you got to step up there and fucking answer the tough questions when they're asked. You can't hide in the corner. That doesn't work that way. They should take that A right off his chest right now. You can't do that as a leader on the team. You can't. That's not the way it works. Right. If you are supposed to be one of the leading guys on the team, the leader of the defense, the alpha dog on the defense, you need to answer questions. Don't leave it to Brandon Carlo or Charlie Coyle or some other asshole to stand up there and talk. Mm. You made the mistake that cost the team the game in the last game in Edmonton. The pass to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, tape to tape. That was you. So stand up there and own it and answer the damn questions and be like, that was my fault. I cost us. Take some accountability and play better. For fuck's sake, play better.
Yeah. I'm not sure. What is he frustrated about? Is he better include himself? Like,
I'm sure he's frustrated with himself. I'm sure he is. Like, I'm sure he holds himself to a higher standard than we hold him to, and he wants to be better. All those guys say the right things, and I think they really do care. Like, I don't think they don't care. I don't think they're coasting through. I think they care a lot, but I think that's part of their problem. They never play free and easy. It's like everything's life and death, and they try as hard as they can, and it makes them worse because they're not just going out and playing. They're playing with a burden on their shoulders the whole time. It's like, just relax and play, dude, and you'd be fine. Like,
and then you hear fire Sweeney chants.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a whole swirling of issues around the whole team where, like, there's a bad vibe, there's a bad energy, like they're not loose. Pasternak's not the goofy smiling guy anymore. Like, there's all this negative shit, and I mean, we feed into that, so I can't say it's I mean, that's the way it is in this town when things don't go well.
It is.
So, you gotta push away the outside distractions and just, come together as a group, and you have to play loose and play easy. And, I know it's tough when you've lost 5 in a row, but that's kind of where you have to get to. You have to kind of just be like, fuck it. Like, we got nothing to lose now. We're dropping down in the standings. Everybody's counting us out. Like, bond together and pull yourselves out of this thing.
Yeah. It's very true. Trip 6, are the Bruins struggles more about the roster or players just underperforming?
It's both. I mean, we talked about it just now. Like, 19 of 21 guys are underperforming. So that's certainly player performance.
I think that's worse. I mean, that's so alarming and so glaring that's just, it's not like the top 3 guys aren't. 19 guys are playing lesser. Like, I know the roster isn't quite as good, but it's better than this.
Yeah, it's better than this. So we've talked about the roster construction and how they left themselves right up against the cap and overpaid for guys and all that stuff. And that's all true. But it comes down to the performance of the players. At the end of the day, that's what matters. And like we said, 19 of 21 guys are having worse years. So, if that's the case, like you're not winning games, and it's not just your fourth line guys. It's everyone. And if you want to include guys that were here for a cup of coffee now and again, those guys underperform too. Matt Jones played 4 games, took 4 penalties, was a -4, and they scored on every penalty he took. I mean, Riley Tufte was here for a cup of coffee and skated around, didn't do anything. I mean, you've had plenty of other guys come in.
Didn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, and haven't done anything. Oliver Wahlstrom's come in, hasn't done anything. I mean, it's just a cloud of just darkness that's over this team right now, and I don't know if anybody's getting out from under it.
I don't think so, because I think when you hear Coyle say stuff like that, it just seems like that the players, you start to spiral the drain, and it's just so hard to dig yourself back out. Now, could all of a sudden pucks go in one night and they feel a lot better? Maybe, but man, this seems to be deeper than that. It just does. All right, Chirp 7. If Joe Sacco can't salvage this season, the Bruins are looking for a new coach. Is David Carl at the top of the list?
He would be for me, because I think it would be fresh blood. I think he's young. I think he would relate to the players well. He's had success at the University of Denver. He's won 2 championships. He's won back-to-back World Junior Championships now with Team USA. Obviously, good talent on the University of Denver team and on the Team USA squad. So can he do it with a shitty roster? I don't know. I don't know if he can, but of the guys available, look, I would rather have a guy like that than a recycled guy. Like, I would rather have that than like the next Todd McClellan or, some other recycled dude. Like, I'm tired of the recycled dudes. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want, like, oh, he gets fired, here, but then you take him, and this guy, you fire Montgomery, and then he goes to St. Like, I don't want to do that shit. Give me something with some fresh ideas, somebody that's new, somebody that's younger, has a little bit of energy. Maybe the energy translates into the team, and somebody can actually complete a pass and skate and whatnot. So, he's at the top of my list. Now, would he be at the top of the Bruins list? Probably not. They'll probably pick some in-house candidate or try to hire Patrice Bergeron off the street, or something like that. But to me, he would be an ideal candidate, because he's outside the organization. He's had some success with some talented players, and he's developed some guys at Denver that have turned into pretty good players.
For sure. All right, grab the kids, bring them around YouTube, and let's listen to what DraftKings has to say.
DraftKings Sportsbook is Boston's hometown sportsbook. It's live right here in Massachusetts. Bet local on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings. To celebrate, all new customers will receive up to $250 in bonus bets when you sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook using code ITR. You can now bet local on moneyline spreads, props, and more with one of America's top-rated sportsbooks. That's DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Sign up with the code ITR to get up to $250 in bonus bets to use. Now that mobile sports betting is live in Massachusetts, that's code ITR, and it's only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
If your loved one is experiencing problems with gambling, call 800-327-5050 or visit helplinema.org to speak with a trained specialist, free and confidentially, 24/7. Must be 21 plus. Physically present in Mass. Eligibility restrictions apply. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as free bets. Terms at DraftKings.com/MA.
It was 50-50 whether or not we were going to get through that. I'll tell you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so go ahead and bet on all sorts of stuff, please.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, start, bench, cut. Let's do it.
Oh boy, we had some fun earlier today with a little topic here of firing Don Sweeney. Well, in that case, we need to fucking replace the guy. Okay. So today's start, bench, cut is going to be Rich Peverly, Jamie Langenbrunner, or Jason Botterill. Start, bench, cut.
Okay. I am going to start Pevs. I'm going to bench Langenbrunner. and I am going to cut Jason Botterill.
Well, you took mine, so that's so I'm gonna start Rich Preverly because he's director of pro personnel, I believe, in Dallas, and they've done pretty well developing young talent and drafting.
Yeah.
And Langenbrunner is the local guy, so I'll go with him. And Botterill, I have no idea who that is, so I've got to cut him because I don't know who he is.
Yeah, so he's not there.
Yeah,
and look it's not going to be an outside guy. It's going to be Pevs, or it's going to be somebody. Peverly could be the guy. I mean,
he could be. And here's another guy who may get a shot. Is Gregory Campbell is the assistant GM in Florida, I believe.
Yeah, sure.
And he was he's a Sweens guy, so giving Gregory Campbell, broken leg and the whole, Caltiero thing in Boston, that's a guy that I could see getting a chance too, especially with the success that Florida's had, recently.
Yeah, isn't Thorny there too? Is he Thornton's?
Sean Thornton's there as well. He's not. I don't know if he's in like. I don't think he's in. Yeah, I don't know if he's in. I thought he was in more like a community relations role.
Oh, okay. All right.
But if he's in hockey ops, I mean, he would obviously become a fan favorite right away. So, for me, it's Pevs and maybe Gregory Campbell, and then Langenbrunner a distant third.
But ultimately, you got to do the job because Cam Neely was no one's a bigger fan favorite than that guy.
Sure.
And now people don't like him. So,
yeah, I mean, we both love Cam Neely to death as a player.
As a player, sure.
And for your guys' live, fact checker community notes here, Sean Thornton is an executive role with the Panthers. He oversees the ticket sales and service team, community relations, the foundation, and corporate partnerships.
He's Paul Cacciatore of the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, so I nailed that one. Good on me.
You did. Good for you.
Yeah.
Hey, beauty for this week, and the beauty is, as always, really, Boston Bruins fans.
Gonna love you, eh? They're gonna be loving you from dawn until dusk.
They've had enough, and they chanted "Fire Sweeney" loudly at the last game, and you're going to continue to hear it every time they lose in TD Garden this year.
I think that's 100% true.
It's going to catch fire because it's all over social media.
Yep.
It's going to be the first thing that's going to come out of their mouths when they fall behind in a game at home.
Yeah, it's not going to be booze anymore. It's going to be that. It's going to be that, and then booze at the very end.
Yep.
So be prepared, Donnie, that the fans in Boston are coming for you. Speaking of Don Sweeney, our bender this week is Mr. Don Sweeney.
I'm a bender.
Sweens. Struggling.
Struggle City. And I'll tell you, I haven't heard much from him in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Either.
That's because he was busy with the Canada Four Nations.
Yeah.
He's busy. He's doing the Canada Four Nations, getting that ready to go.
Yeah. And was he at the Canucks game the other night? Was it the Canucks game?
I hope it was.
I think it was.
Maybe he's looking at Elias Pettersson.
He was at a game focused on a couple of different teams that might be in the mix. Maybe it was Columbus. And I can't remember what it was, but he's been out and about. All right, prospect spotlight. 2 Boston Bruins Providence Bruins players, Boston Bruins prospects, made the AHL All-Star team. Michael Callahan, defenseman, and Michael DiPietro, the goaltender, former guest on the Bruins Benders podcast.
Yeah, congratulations.
Hey, he's an NHLer. He'll be the one NHLer we've had.
I think you will. I think you will. I'm going out on a limb, and I'm saying that he's going to make it. Look, he's been really good, and he's taken over the number 1 job from Bussy.
Yeah, you don't even hear about Bussy anymore.
No, he's the number 1 guy there now, and he's been playing great. So ever since really he came into the Bruins organization, he's played well.
Yeah,
and maybe that's the goalie whisperer thing with goalie Bob. I don't know. But credit to DiPietro to kind of right his career and get things going the right way. And now he's right on the cusp of making it to the NHL and living his dream out. So I think he'll make it. I really do. I think he's gonna be the backup in Boston before too long.
Yeah, well, good. I hope he does. And it's really been great to see. I mean, he's 27 now, I think, late bloomer. But hey, it's something from that Jats-Stagnica trade. You know what I mean? It's something. Maybe they deal him in a package for somebody this trade deadline. Who knows? But at least there's some value there in Michael DiPietro. So good for them. All right, week ahead, and it's on January 9th at Tampa Bay. Big one. Tampa Bay, 5 games in hand on Boston, and the Bruins hanging on for dear life, just a point ahead. And then on ABC, 1:00 start on Saturday, January 11th at the Florida Panthers. And then on January 14th, again against Tampa Bay, this time at home, where you can chant Fire Sweeney all the night long time. So hopefully they get a couple of wins here. I don't know. It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. So we'll see what happens. Coming up here, it's a huge stretch for the Bruins. Please head over to our merch shop. Grab some Bruins Benders merchandise, Boston hockey merchandise as well. Subscribe to the Inside the Rink YouTube channel. Join us after every game on YouTube for Benders Post-Game Live. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. It's been hopping lately. And hey, give us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts as well, if you will. We could use some of those. Appreciate all the support all the time. And until next week's episode, go Bruins.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.